Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Welcome to Hopinions, and we are back in our kitchen recording studio. We've not been here for ages.
I don't know if we've been here this year.
I don't think we have.
I know, sadly, because last time we recorded here, we still had Dave.
Yes.
The mascot.
Sadly no longer with
He's
us.
sadly no longer with us. So it's he would normally have wanted to feature in some way by now.
Yep. I'm sure somehow he's still featuring in the show. And we've got first beer in the glass this evening. Now this is a bit of a special beer, and we're quite excited.
I'm very excited
about having this as well.
And we referenced it on the last show as well.
We did. So Adnams, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Ghost Ship, which I still can't believe it's 10 years old, have done a series of collaborations.
Yep.
Or they're going to be doing a series of collaborations with 4 breweries. The first one with Camden Town Brewery, and we have the first beer in front of us. So this is Camden On Sea. It's a 4.6% India Pow lager. So very much based on the Ghost Ship recipe. But with Camden's very own unique twist on it.
Right, can we stop talking about it now?
And just drink it.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh, it's got a bit of a Ghost Ship nose.
I was going to say, it's got that Adnams nose.
It's a lagered version of Ghost Ship, isn't it?
It tastes like Ghost Ship.
it's a little bit more carbonation than normal, perhaps. A bit softer.
Yeah, a bit of a maybe a slightly fizzier finish to it. But it tastes like Ghost Ship.
It does taste like Ghost Ship, but basically it's lagered Ghost Ship.
Yeah, that is brilliant. that has put a massive smile on both of our faces.
Yeah, which is needed at the moment.
Very much so.
So hops are Pearl and Citra. Malt, Pilsner and Cara, IBU's 20. Very similar to Budvar, if I remember correctly. And apparently, and this is great with spicy Mexican chili. And suitable for vegans as well.
Okay, and I do love that the branding is still distinctly Ghost Ship as well, because it's got the Ghost Ship floating around the background.
Yeah,
there.
no, it's nicely designed. It's a nice colour, and I have to admit, initial taste and smell very favourable.
Very favourable indeed. I think we're gonna enjoy drinking that.
Going to enjoy drinking that in 5 minutes.
I also think it's not going to last very long.
No,
in
it's
the
not.
glass.
It's not going to last long.
And if this is the first of 4 collaborations this year, I am very excited to see what the other
what
3
else comes out.
Especially now, as we know. So this was with Camden, and they've done an India Power lager. Now we know Camden specialise in doing lagers.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do with Beavertown.
Yep.
What they're going to do with Cloudwater. Are they going to go down the IPA route, hazy IPA, New England IPA route with
potentially
Cloudwater?
Think that.
And then you've got Magic Rock as well in there. So I mean, I think the Cloudwater one might be a given that they're going to do maybe a Ghost Ship IPA clone sort of thing.
Yeah.
The other 2 are a little bit
not so sure.
What are they going to do? What are they most well known for?
So it will be interesting to see what comes out of it, but it's a good start.
It's a very good start, and many thanks to Fergus at Adnams, who made sure we got a couple of cans to try on the show.
Thank you very much.
Do appreciate that.
Yeah, I did see it on. It was going to come up on tap at the Pelt Trader this week.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, I would have had to stop myself buying it last week if it had been on, just so I could save it for now.
Well, that's a lovely segue into Beery Adventures, because you seem to have, pardon the French, hit the fuck it button in far as drinking beer out recently.
Whether this will come back to bite me is another matter. But bearing in mind everything that's going on, I decided on Friday to book the half day. I'd had a very tough week at work, but also perhaps anticipating certain things that may or may not come up with regard to advice. And so I met up with a friend of mine in the city, went to the Pelt Trader for a few beers, and then thought, I'm going to take myself over to the Colonel then. I still haven't been over there. And then I had a very pleasant couple of hours on my Todd, going through the beers in the Colonel.
It's a lovely space.
It is a lovely space. They've done it really well. That little mezzanine level at the top for like a group of 8 or 10 people. Really nicely done. It looks good. You know, the beers were cracking. and it just had a lovely feel to it. And it's actually made it. They've managed to make it feel quite bright.
Yes, but yeah.
As well. It got busy on the Friday, but it wasn't packed and it wasn't noisy. It just had a lovely vibe and feel to it. So no, that was really good. No real standout beers other than me saying that all of the beers were really good.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. But it was more about getting out.
It's great to be able to try them pretty much from the source, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, of course it is.
In terms of kernel beers.
I mean, it's been a while since we've been able to do that.
Yeah,
with kernel beers. So it was definitely somewhere I will go back to again when things have settled down. And I know that Michelle definitely wants to go as well. And we always tie with a little visit to her nan as well, who only lives about 5 minutes walk away. I don't think she goes to the kernel though.
No, I don't imagine.
No. But that was good. But then I woke up on the Saturday and thought I'd do something similar again.
I must admit, I was watching your journeys from a distance through a slightly green tinted pair of glasses. I was like, fucking hell, he's out again.
Yeah, so on Saturday, Michelle was working during the day. I was thinking, oh, okay. And there's no trains. But then she had to go to Southend to pick up the boy she was doing the respite care for. So I said, well, do you want to give me a lift? And then she was going to be out for 5 or 6 hours. So then I thought, it's a nice day. I can walk to Craftworks in Southend, which is the crafty bar in Southend that's been open for about a year now. And then I thought I'll go to Mile and a Third. And there's a guy who I used to work with and now currently work with again, who lives near there. And Mile and a Third celebrated their first birthday recently. And Mile and a Third is in Westcliff. And because that wasn't enough, I then decided to walk to the West Road Tap, which is a micro pub, and again had some nice beers there. Met up with Michelle, who apparently could tell that I'd had a few drinks. Don't know how she could tell that. And it was a really nice day. And it was just nice to get out, talk to people, and see people, and think, okay, that's good. I'm out. I'm not just sitting at home, because a Saturday normally, where Michelle was out working, would have meant me watching Soccer Saturday. There's no point. You cancelled all the bloody football.
Do that, yeah.
So all I would have been watching was then talk about what happened last week and what might happen as and when it all started up again. I thought, I can't do that. So I got out. And then on Sunday, I went out with Michelle. We went for a long walk into Rayleigh, and we went to Crafty Casks and just had a few nice drinks there. Came home, had a few beers from the fridge. And then today I'm now drinking with you, Steve. Then I'll have a bit of time off.
Yeah, quite a bit of time off it seems.
Yeah, it seems. The night of recording is the 16th of March. Normally I would have been looking forward to my annual get together with the family to go and drink some Guinness off the Holloway Road. But we're not doing that this year either.
No, I don't suppose you are.
No.
Are you still planning to celebrate at all? Will you crack a stout at all tomorrow?
I don't know if I will. It won't be quite the same. It's about going out with the family on St Patrick's Day for me. It isn't just about having the beers.
Yeah.
So no, it's a shame because it's a long time since we've not got together. But my brother Paul, who lives in Germany, the one who lives in Cologne, had taken the decision about a week ago that he couldn't afford to be on the wrong side of his border if something happened. And as it turns out, today or yesterday, then Germany has now started to close its borders, as a lot of Europe. So he made the right decision. I think he took a hit on the on the travel, but he didn't have a hotel. So he was going to stay at mum and dad's anyway. And also my parents are in their mid-70s, and again exercising a bit of caution. Didn't think it was great for them to be train, tube, hot pubs and Holloway Road, busy pubs as they might have been at the time. So yeah. I have done my best to squeeze as many beery adventures as possible into the last 4 days.
In comparison to that, I've not really done much.
So I felt like Tom on Men Behaving Badly there, just doing a long rambling list of stuff.
Yeah, I had bottle share at the beginning of March. Always a fun evening. A lot of good beers shared, as always. and I've been doing a fair bit of drinking at home, just drinking through some stocks. But the one evening out I did get came about at a fairly short notice, actually. So friend of the show, Ed Razzle, is in the process of setting up his own brewery, Symmetry Brewing. And he's recently brewed his first beer with Owl Farm, who are based in Denmark.
Yep.
And he's been going around the country launching the beer at various places. It's West Coast IPA called Let's Go Back to California. And with about 3 days' notice, that he organised the launch night of the Vic in Colchester. So to say that I dropped everything would be an understatement. I dropped everything to get down to the Vic that evening, and Ed was good enough to sit down with us as well for a chat about the beer. So I'm here with Ed, and I'm at the Victoria Inn, which is our spiritual home, as many of our listeners will know. Welcome to the show, Ed.
Thanks, Stevie.
And I'm here to celebrate the fact that you've got a beer on here tonight, and it's the first beer from your new brewery.
Yeah, West Coast IPA. Brewed it in Copenhagen, middle of January. It's over here. It's tasting good. It's quite weird to have my beer on in this pub because it's literally one of my favourite pubs in the world.
I've got a pint. I've not tasted it yet. I'm quite excited. So
I'm excited for you. Go.
Excellent, brilliant. Well, cheers, Ed. It's nice of you to give me a little bit of time to chat to you.
No worries.
There's an initial sweetness there. Really kind of bit of sweetness, bit juicy, bit tropical. And then the bitterness starts to come through slowly.
Yeah.
Towards the end there. Is that intentional?
Yeah, the way I like to make beer is make someone have another pint of it. So you got to make it delicious all the way down the glass and through every sip.
Okay, we'll talk about the beer a little bit more as we go on. But I'm interested in, because it's possible that a lot of our listeners maybe haven't come across you before.
Okay.
Obviously, Martin and I know you because you are sort of an East Anglia lad.
Yeah.
So just tell us what your brewing journey has been. Where did you start, and what's the journey that you've been on now to the point of sort of owning and starting up your own brewery?
Well, complicated is the answer. But so I did a degree in molecular biology. And one of the specialisms I did was in fermentation, so looking at yeast and bacteria and that kind of thing, and then ended up in Suffolk running a little tiny brew pub out the back of an amazing pub in Stratford St Mary, and did that for 4 or 5 years, and that was a 200 litre brew kit, and just making some pretty cool beers. And then there was a job opportunity advertised at Adnams. Shout out to the Adnams Massive, which I got. It was a pretty weird interview, if I'm honest, because Fergus and Dan are some of my best mates before I even started at Adnams. So it was kind of like, oh, do you want the job? Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, let's go to the pub.
Really?
Yeah,
that simple?
Yeah. And then so I started there. I can't remember. It's blurred into one. Probably 3-4 years ago, I don't know. Was there for 3-4 years. That was a pretty weird step up from the brew kit at the Swan, which was 200 litres, to the brew kit at Adnams, which is 40,000 litres, just overnight.
That's a massive step up, mate.
Yeah.
It's not just so it's not a little one.
Well, yeah. So yeah, spent an amazing time there. Fergus and the team are bloody brilliant. Learnt a lot. Decided to open my own brewery like the crazy man that I am. And now brewing at Burnt Mill, which is another one of my favourite breweries in the world. The crew there are brilliant, making some really tasty, more adventurous beers than Adnams, but still really good. And yeah, so we've got a barn in the middle of nowhere in Suffolk, which is pretty cool, which we're currently kitting out. I've got the builders there on Monday, so yeah, just that's my life.
And because I know we've chatted before, you also spent a bit of time in the States, learning a little bit of brewing in the States as well. Yeah,
so I was lucky enough to be a scholar. I got a fully paid scholarship for a few weeks, almost 2 months, to go out and work at Sierra Nevada. Which, they're the OG craft brewery in the States.
Absolutely, yeah.
and that was an amazing experience as well. So spending time on the West Coast. Most people of a particular age started drinking West Coast IPAs. You're talking about Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger, all the Stone beers, Sierra Nevada's IPAs, like the really crisp, bright, bitter, aromatic IPAs that, you know, probably started a lot of beer journeys for a lot of people. You know, definitely for me. And, you know, so this is just my homage to that.
Mm-hmm.
And
so tell us about the beer.
so this is brewed with a brewery in Copenhagen by a friend of mine. Well, I brewed it out there with him, but he's also from Suffolk. Brewed it there, and, you know, it's the kind of beer that we grew up drinking. West Coast classic bitter IPA with Cascade, Simcoe and Amarillo. Some real nice classic West Coast hops.
It's called Let's Go Back to California.
Yeah.
6.7%.
Yep.
Really, really, really drinkable.
Yeah.
I mean, that like I say, that initial swig of it is really soft and really introduces you to the beer, and then the bitterness does begin to grow. I mean, it's crystal clear. It's
Unfiltered, by the way.
really.
This is all through cellaring, yeah.
Yeah, a little on the darker side of sort of amber.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd say probably again more in the classic style of West Coast IPA, and this is your the brewery that you're setting up is called Symmetry.
Yep.
So this is your first official release,
Yes.
so to speak, a collaboration with Owl Farm.
Yeah.
You say you're obviously kitting out a barn in Suffolk. How long is that going to take until we start seeing some beers coming through from the brewery? Just your own stuff.
So I've got a deadline. I want to be brewing by the end of June. As ever, these things take way longer than you ever expect them to take, and cost way more than you expect them to take. But yeah, hopefully this summer we should be up and running, doing 3 or 4 core beers, clean, standard, as it were, beers, and then big passion of mine is wild and mixed fermentation. So when I really kick off, along with the guys at Little Earth Project and Duration, like make East Anglia into this hub of mixed fermentation beers, it'd be really good.
Yeah. So are you going down the route of having some core beers and then other beers around that, or is it just going to be whatever you've got coming up, whatever ingredients you've got to hand?
I've done a lot of thinking about it. Like, lots of breweries just release a new beer every 2 weeks or whatever it is. That's nice. It's not sustainable in my eyes. I guess consumers are always looking for the latest new thing, but I want to be known as the guy that produces beers that you walk into a pub and go, right, Symmetry, I'll have a pint of that. I've seen that beer before, I've had it before. Like, it's got to be, a total classic knockout beer every time that everyone wants to buy, rather than, oh, I'm buying it because it's new. I want people to buy it because they know it and trust it.
Well, the beer's quite widely available, so hopefully our listeners will be able to get hold of some.
Yeah.
And obviously, let us know what you think of it if you do manage to get hold of it. I know you've got an event to kind of host here tonight at the Vic, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you very much for your time, Ed.
My pleasure.
One last opportunity. Where do people find Symmetry on the socials?
At Symmetry Brewing across everything, because I'm totally organised about that kind of thing.
Okay, fantastic. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
people can find it. Ed,
Cheers.
Good luck, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers.
Nice to see you.
So it was great to get to try Ed's beer with him in, as he said in that interview, in the pub that is one of his favourite pubs on the planet, and he's always wanted to have one of his own beers sold in. It was a real moment for him to be selling his own beer in the Vic Inn in Colchester.
I can imagine, because obviously he used to work at the Swan at Stratford St Mary, which is only a few miles outside of Colchester as well. So yeah, he's familiar with the Vic Inn. Did he have it on tap?
It was on tap, yeah. It was a 20 litre keg.
Okay.
On
because
tap.
you managed to get down to Two Brews as well, didn't you?
Yes,
in Colchester
and
to
get
pick up
some cans of it as well.
So, well, first of all, your thoughts on the beer?
I absolutely loved it. I'd say it was, in terms of style-wise, West Coast IPA, it was a little sweet initially, but that soon gave way to the West Coast flavours that you're used to, and it had a bitter finish that just went on for days. It was just so well balanced.
I mean, I had it just from the can, because obviously I couldn't make it to the Vic for the launch night. So grateful to you for getting down to Two Brews to purchase a couple. Really enjoyed it. Really easy to drink. Again, it's very well balanced. I know what you're saying about that sweetness, but that once you'd had a few mouthfuls, the sweetness didn't seem so apparent.
No, it disappeared very quickly.
Yeah, a really good beer. It's made me curious for trying a few more beers from Ale Farm as well.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to Symmetry launching though. As Ed said in the interview there, they are just over the border in Suffolk, due to launch later on this year. Looking to have some core beers and also some wild and mixed fermentation stuff, which is really a bit of a passion of Ed's as well.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to him. We know him. For anyone who remembers, he was the inspiration for doing the my Ghost Ship wedding special.
Yes,
for me when he was at Adnams. So I'm quite happy to always try his beers when he brings them out, and good luck to him with the venture.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us quite nicely on to the news. So just a couple of things this week. First one, and this happened pretty much the day after the last show.
Of course it did.
It feels like it happened a long time ago now. The Portman Group put out a load of new rulings. One of which was against Lost and Grounded's running with sceptres. I feel as though you're already getting upset about this. So it once again has upheld a single complaint against one of Lost and Grounded's core beers. And
that happens to sell into Waitrose?
Happens to sell in Waitrose. Interestingly, on the Portman website, they've now removed where in the country that Waitrose is from all previous complaints. So it's somewhere in the southwest of England, and there is a single person that keeps going in, finding beers, complaining about them, and getting rulings made against them. That is more than a coincidence as far as I'm concerned, but let's come back to fact that we've got right now. So Lost and Grounded put out a statement. So co-founder Annie Clements has said, among other things, the product is integral to our brand story, and to change it and its branding would be costly, and to do this based on a single complaint is simply not practical and has the potential to cause significant financial damage to our small independent business. In its submissions, the Portman Group, the brewery highlighted numerous factors indicating why it believes the ruling is incorrect. The product has been on the market for over 3 years. It's been featured widely in known publications such as BBC Six Music Magazine and the London Economic, and in 2019 was featured on BBC Saturday Kitchen Live. Despite significant exposure, the product has never previously received a complaint. Annie then went on to say, we feel the decision by the Portman Group is incorrect and it does not consider the nature of today's beer market. This is a product sold at a premium price point in a 440ml can in the beer section of stores. The product is clearly identified as an India Pale Lager on the front of the can. And then they go on to say that basically, I think Lost and Grounded have no intention of following Portman's ruling. They're going to keep the branding as it is, and they're aware that this will more than likely result in the product being delisted from Waitrose stores, but they're hoping that their stance on refusing to change it will be a catalyst for a change in the way that the Portman Group applies the legislation. It's
just getting laughable now, though, isn't it?
It is.
This is getting laughable. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand, and I think the messages that came out from Annie at Lost and Grounded all made perfect sense to me. And obviously I know that Seba got involved as well.
Yes, yeah.
But anyone in their, what I would consider their right mind, I don't see how you can have a problem with something. And also, as I said, it's 3 years out there now. It's 3 years in the wild.
It does seem, this one in particular seems particularly crazy because a complaint was made against both Running Receptors and Keller Peels, which had very similar branding.
Yeah.
But only Running Receptors was upheld.
Why?
There's a lot of suggestion because there's more cartoon animal characters on the Running Receptors, but still, this still feels like a particular individual has some sort of vendetta against craft beer.
Yeah, definitely. And that is how it feels now. But you shouldn't be able to have that, one person shouldn't be able to have that much power.
No, and this is I think you said that obviously SEBA have now got involved. James Calder from SEBA's now involved. He's been meeting and he's written to the Portman group, and I think discussions are underway in terms of that particular point of it being one complaint can have this much impact. It has to change at this point, surely.
Yeah, because it's if you are the one individual and for whatever reason you've got a vendetta or you genuinely don't like it, there's got to be some sort of threshold.
Yeah.
There's got to be a threshold whereby they say, well, look, quite frankly, mate, you're the only person complaining about this. No one else has complained about it. So we're not even taking it any further. It shouldn't even go to the panel.
Yeah, because this complainant has made complaints against, and all in Waitrose, the entirety of Beavertown's range, the entirety of the new Oakham canned range, both of Lost and Grounded's cans.
Yeah, so basically going through the Waitrose stock.
Yeah, it's just crazy, and yes, I think at this stage it needs to change.
Yeah, it needs to change. I think, we would still prefer to have the Portman Group, but the Portman Group can't be trusted to do it. And just bring in legislation and get rid of the Portman Group, because at the moment I'm not sure it could do much worse.
I don't think you can do much worse than that at all.
And there's things. I mean, hard seltzers. How is that shit not raised any flags at all?
Well, yeah, because it's
alcoholic water.
It's basically alcoholic water. And having tried one recently, we tried one after the most recent bottle share. Somebody had some samples with them, which I shared, and it was literally like drinking flavoured sparkling water.
So basically, they're making an alcoholic drink to not taste like alcohol at all, just to appeal to people who want to buy the next stuff quickly.
Yeah, and that's where the Portman Group should be focusing their efforts, not on removing the creativity and, frankly, beautiful design work that are on Lost and Grounded's cans. As we've spoken before, all of their cans tell a story.
It's part of the landscape, isn't it?
Yeah. Good on them for standing their ground and saying, no, we're not going to change this.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't cause them too much financial pain, because we know that they were putting in some new tanks down there as well, and they were expanding operations. Part of that would have been based on the amount of beer they sell into Waitrose.
Yes, yeah.
So fingers crossed, it not only gets the conversation started, but it doesn't have too many negative connotations for our friends at Lost and Grounded.
Yeah, hopefully it's the catalyst for much needed change. Next up on the news, story from came out in the Morning Advertiser, and sadly that we're seeing again the decline in the number of pubs that are managing to stay open. So based on research done by Market Growth Monitor from CGA and Alex Partners, found pubs, restaurant and bars and other licensed venues closures fell by 1.8% in 12 months to December 2019. So that's roughly equates to 994 pubs have closed in the last 12 months.
Just under 1,000. That's still a lot. I know that they're extolling the virtues, but it's gone down by less than 2%. But when you have absolute numbers, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And when you link that to the news that we've heard today.
Yeah, day of recording, all to do with the coronavirus, basically our social distancing.
Yes, and that the government are urging us to not go to pubs, clubs and social venues.
Yeah, me and Steve are 2 metres apart right now. We're just shouting at each other across the bar.
It's not good news for the industry at the
moment, it's not.
Is it?
I mean, it's not good news for any industry at the moment. But obviously, the one which we particularly love, and we've focused on many times about enjoying a beer in the pub, tap room, licensed venue, wherever it may be. I'm not even going to say whether I think it's right or wrong in so much as the health aspect, but I know that there are people who see it as a lifeline for their reason to get out of the house in the first place, and then there's all those people that run and work in those joints, and the ones who work and rely on tips.
Oh,
as
absolutely,
well.
Yeah.
And it's just we didn't close pubs during the World Wars. They may have reduced the hours and watered down the beer, but we didn't close them.
Yeah. Well, based on that, I mean, tonight I was chatting to Emma before we were recording. She was saying that her sister works in a pub, and while she was on the phone to me, she was saying, "Oh, I've just had a message from my sister. They've reduced the pub hours because there's just no one coming in it." Mm-hmm. And then in the course of the same phone call, she then received another message from her sister saying, "I've just had a message saying not to bother coming in for the rest of the week because there's no hours for me." So that's a very real impact.
Very real impact.
What this is having,
and will be multiplied.
It will, and it's like we say, it's not just in pubs and tap rooms and other licensed venues. This is going to be we're going to see this impact rolling on to. You know, I've been watching the situation basically unfold on Twitter today with, you know, a lot of breweries saying, well, we don't know what to brew at the moment because we've got no one to sell it to.
No, and you, especially for those breweries which don't do small pack, you're not even selling it online to get someone to deliver it to you for your home purchases.
So if you're a cask predominant brewery, there's no point you brewing anything at the moment, unless because you can't sell it anywhere.
No, exactly. I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's, you know, I'm not trying to say, like I said, I don't want to say whether the advice is right or wrong, but the economic consequences of all these decisions that are being taken at the moment will eventually outweigh the consequences of the actual virus.
Oh, without a doubt. I think, unfortunately, we're gonna, again, not just in the beer industry, we're going to see a lot of businesses fold over this, and you know, we can only do our little bit in our little corner of the world within beer to support some of the businesses out there,
which I did try to do for the last 4 days.
You've done your best.
Yeah, I've done my best on my own for 4 days, but that ain't going to do anything for anyone, is it?
No, it's not. But you know, it's a time where I suppose as a community we need to be pulling together a little bit in terms of let's make sure we're buying beer online from independent stockists. Yeah. If we can, let's see if we can buy some small pack from our local breweries. Let's just all do what we can right now to kind of help each other through this.
Yeah, no, I'd agree, and you know, good luck to everyone.
Absolutely, and let's hope everyone comes out the other side.
Yeah,
just stay safe, people.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully it won't ride for quite as long as people are fearing. But who knows?
Yeah.
So I've finished my beer.
Yes, it's tough to segue back into that.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, there's no point even trying on this occasion.
Yeah.
I have finished my beer because basically I wanted to say to you I want to go and get another one.
Okay.
So, what was your final thoughts on the collaboration?
It's Ghost Ship Lager.
Yeah.
It's so brilliantly tasty.
It feels like a summer beer though, doesn't it? It feels like you could really crush this on a hot day in Southwold, not far from the beach.
Yeah.
Get a pack of those.
Yeah. I mean, it absolutely is. The flavour absolutely is Ghost Ship.
It's Ghost Ship essence.
It's through and through.
It's Ghost Ship essence.
What Adnams and Camden have done here with the Camden On Sea India Pale Lager is produce a beer that is the very best of what both of those breweries do.
Which is what we've talked about with collaborations before. Sometimes I think in the past we have said, how have you managed not to get the best of both your breweries?
Yeah.
Or more. Whereas on this one, I think what I consider to be their flagship beers for both these breweries have come together quite nicely.
Absolutely stunning stuff.
So again, thanks Fergus for getting them through to us.
And I think that's available, again going back to what we're saying, that's now available on the Adnams web shop. Moving on to the next beer then. What have we got in front of us now?
Well, let's wait a little while to try this one, haven't we?
We have, yeah, because again this was sent to us pretty much straight after we had finished our last recording here, maybe.
Yeah.
Before we went on the road for a bit.
Yeah, and so this is the beer which you may have seen advertised. This is the Beavertown Spurs. So this is done over at the Spurs ground. One of our own IPA. Now, I was quite keen to try this one myself. It's 4.9%. The pictures look quite nice. The reviews look quite good. I was just basically hoping they were going to send me to a match to try it. So it's quite ironic that now we're trying the football-related beer when there's no football.
When there's no football, yeah. And I think I'm right in saying that this was only put into small pack to send out for as samples.
Yeah.
So normally the only place you can buy this is actually at White Hart Lane.
Yes, and I think they brought out a glass as well, but the glass wasn't for sale.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the time, and I spoke to one of my friends who was a Spurs season ticket holder. I imagine at some point that will change because I reckon they'll get so many requests because it's very much a Spurs branded glass.
Yeah.
Well, should we dive in on this?
Yeah, let's
4.9% IPA.
Let's give it a try. Cheers.
It's quite lemony, actually.
It's really lemony. It's really easy. It feels like what they've done is produced a beer that sits perfectly between neck oil and gamma ray.
That's what I was going to say, which has been missing.
Yeah.
If you think about their wider range, there is a bit of a gap between the strength of neck oil and gamma ray. I love both those beers. This does sit nice in between. So you're giving people who go into football without it maybe having to go up to almost 6% for your gamma ray hit. You get this sitting in between, which is still under 5%.
Yeah.
And let's face it, compared to most football clubs, and I know there are some exceptions, and we know there are some out there who do have some nice beers landing these days, but the vast majority of them don't. It'll be Green King. Will often the Green King will have tied up their sponsorship deals. That's the only ones they're selling. Maybe some Heineken, something like that. If I was going to football, I'd quite happily have a couple of pints of this before the match.
You could easily enjoy a few pints.
Yeah, definitely. So, well done. And
quite a nice time.
Thank you, Beavertown, for sending them out to us.
Yes.
They did get them out quickly. Sorry we're taking so long to get around to them, but it looks right to me, though.
It's drinkable enough, and like I say, I think it sits at that perfect point.
Yeah,
it's certainly in terms of that ABV.
Is it going to blow anyone away? Of course it ain't. But like I said, when you normally go to football, you don't expect to get blown away by the beer.
No.
This is nice.
When you've got a brewery that's actually based in your home ground, you kind of want them to be producing a flagship beer.
I'd want that unique beer.
Yeah.
This is our stadium beer. Here you go.
Yeah.
Try this.
You can only get it in the stadium.
Yeah. It's a great selling point.
It's an absolute USP, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well, while we're enjoying this, let's dive in to this week's question.
Opinions, 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 opinions.
Which wasn't actually a poll this week. We thought we'd do, to try and lighten the mood a little bit.
Yep.
We thought we'd do one of our fantasy-themed shows. And this one was a suggestion that was made to us by the Owl Lady, at the Owl Lady, who quite simply said, 5 living folk you've never met who you'd like to buy a beer for.
And I think it's fair to say this is a little bit of a twist on something similar that Men Behaving Badly did with each other, which was 5 people, one of them dead, one of them fictional, and 3 of them alive. They had a little bit more criteria to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to run with the version presented to us by the Ale Lady. So there you go, Steve. Who's your first? Who do you want to buy a beer for?
Okay, so we're going to do ours, aren't we?
Yeah,
but we're going to take turns
yes.
in doing these. So first one on my list, and this is where I do feel like I am literally reading from Men Behaving Badly's script sheet here. First one on my list is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. That man loves a beer. I would love to be able to sit down with him and buy him a beer and just talk about his career, and if he ever really thought that Foo Fighters were going to ever become as big as they did when he first started them after leaving Nirvana. In my mind, he's potentially up there as one of the greatest musicians of all time, and I would quite happily spend up to £6.95 on a pint for him.
Well done. Up to £6. Very specific. Very specific. I think that's a great one. I mean, I think, I love the Foo Fighters as well. I've got most of their stuff, and I've seen them 2 or 3 times. I reckon that would be a heady night.
I don't think it would be one beer.
No, it wouldn't be one beer, and I think you'd have a sore head the next day.
I think so. I think it definitely drink me under the table. let's be honest.
Yeah, I would put my money on it being Dave. Still up on the table.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Steve's,
not so
Steve's gone. He's wandered.
Yeah. So who's your first?
Okay, so I think it's probably important to say that I've written this list down, but I don't think it's a particular order. But my first one would be Kenny Dalglish. So Liverpool great, both as a player and as a manager, or player manager, and then a manager. I would just like, he was a hero. Most of mine are related to growing up, and some may argue that I haven't yet, so who knows where that goes. But Kenny Dalglish was a definite hero of mine as a Liverpool fan when I was growing up. I just thought he was such a class player. I would just love to talk to him about his footballing life, the time at Liverpool, the time he was part of some of those fantastically great sides in the 70s and 80s and winning the European Cup, winning league titles. So yeah, he would. So I don't know what sort of drinker he is, but I would love to have a beer with him. Definitely.
Do you see that being in quite an old school boozer? Maybe one that's got a bay window where you'd sit at the table enjoying a few pints over the course of an afternoon?
I reckon it'd be in a golf club.
Oh, okay.
So many. I'm pretty certain Kenny Dalglish is a golfer, and so many footballers are golfers. I reckon it'd be in a golf club.
Be fairly limited on your beer choices.
I'm going to be very limited on my beer choices. I would take the hit on my beer choices if it meant sharing some time with Kenny Dalglish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would take the hit on that. I'd have a pint of Doom Bar if I was sitting there with Kenny Dalglish.
Well, you get the opportunity to buy one of your idols a pint. It could be a pint of anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So who's next up for you then?
Again, rather apt that we're recording today, which is among certain circles known as 316 Day. So my second choice would be the wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin. Again, feeling like I'm still reading off Men Behaving Badly's script here. I think the man actually defined a particular era of wrestling and has been one of only a very small number of wrestlers that have transcended the squared circle and moved on to become household names.
I know who he is.
I would put him up there with Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and maybe John Cena as being the others that are household names.
Yeah, I know Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's not because I've watched him wrestling.
Yes, because you're always seeing gifs of it.
Well, there is that as well.
Probably. But yeah, no, I just think, you know, when he was at his peak in the WWE, obviously he was known for being a beer swilling, foul-mouthed son of a gun. But he still presents a regular weekly podcast on wrestling. There is a beer named after him as well. He's got his Broken Skull Challenge on one of the channels, which is basically like an endurance program.
Okay.
You know, and I just would love to sit down with him and talk about how most of what he did seemed to come in an industry that's very scripted and very laid out. Most of what he did seemed to be very, very natural and seemed to get the perfect audience reaction every time. And I'd love to just have the discussion about that with him.
Oh, he definitely seems to have worked out what to do and when to do it.
Yeah.
And he was there at the right time as well.
So who's next on your list?
Paul McCartney.
I expected this one to be on here somewhere. Other than it just being 5 of the various actors that have either played the Doctor or Bond, I would have absolutely guessed that Paul McCartney would have been on this list.
Yeah, he is my all-time favourite artist. The Beatles are one of my all-time favourite bands that I listen to. I've always liked Paul McCartney stuff. I first got into Paul McCartney probably around about the time Pipes of Peace. And I think I was just fascinated by the story behind the video of the Germans and English playing football. And then discovered that there was quite a lot of back catalogue. It's cost me a fortune over the years because it went right back to the 50s, going and trawling through record and tape exchanges, picking up Beatles albums here, left, right and centre before CDs. And again, a bit of a Liverpool connection. He's a Liverpool fan as well, and he's played at Anfield, as in, you know, done a gig there. And again, I'd just like to talk to him about, you know, the heady days of the 60s and with being part of the Beatles from the inside out.
Yeah.
And I've seen various tribute acts for the bootleg Beatles and stuff like that. But I've seen Paul McCartney 3 or 4 times as well. And I love hearing the Wings stuff, the solo stuff, the Beatles stuff. For me, he just ticks so many boxes, and it would be great fun to share a beer with him.
Well, he's an artist that, going back to one of mine, Dave Grohl, very much looks up to Paul McCartney and very much cites him as an inspiration for a lot of his stuff.
And I think Dave Grohl guested at the Liverpool gig.
They've recorded a track together as well, which went out on an album that wasn't a Foo Fighters album. It was called Sound City, which was basically Dave Grohl doing a number of songs with his idols, and one of those was with Paul McCartney. I think there's a Stevie Nicks track on there as well, and there's lots of other different tracks that Dave Grohl essentially worked with these artists to produce songs for that album.
So he's done something similar to what we're doing, but we're not doing anything with our talent apart from drinking beer.
Yes, yeah.
We're just going to drink beer with these people.
That's all we're doing. Yeah.
Dave Grohl actually wrote and recorded songs, and we say, "Oh, well, we'll buy you a beer." Number 3.
This one goes back to my childhood, actually, and a time of when there were very few channels on the television, and you had to watch most of your sport on one of the main channels. You had no choice. And a man who was a huge inspiration to me growing up and was one of the original reasons why I got into athletics as a youngster, and that was Daley Thompson. I would absolutely love to sit down with Daley and talk to him about his successes as a decathlete over many years as well.
Well, I mean, 1980 Olympic golds, 1984 Olympic gold, and if it hadn't been for a few unlucky moments and been injured on the run up to 1988, he could have
done it again. Yeah.
So he used to train at New River in Hackney.
Oh, really?
In Haringey, and so I did see him train every now and again because that was about 10 minutes walk from my secondary school at the time.
Yeah.
As well, I think that'd be brilliant. I think that'd actually be a laugh.
Yeah, because a few times I've seen him on interviews and commentating, he does seem like he's got a real sense of humour to him as well.
Yeah,
and I think that'd be a really enjoyable afternoon.
Yeah, I think that'd be good fun talking about some of his decathlon rivals, but also how he maintained that level for such a multidisciplined sport.
Yeah, but also, yes. Also, though, I think he brought decathlon to the public consciousness.
Oh, definitely.
As well, because I had never heard of it before I seen it, and then all of a sudden there was this man, and he was doing all these different events, and he was always smiling and joking about on the television, and he became an instant sort of hero almost to me.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was brilliant. He was really good. I think that's a really good show. Like I said, I reckon that'd be a good laugh.
I don't think you would have ever put money on there being a sportsman on my list, would you?
No, I definitely wouldn't put down a decathlete either.
So who's your next one, mate?
Well, I had this one down as a different part of my list, but it dovetail quite nicely into your one because I'm not sure how well these two individuals get on now. So if we were drinking with Daley Thompson and my next one, it might have to be a different pub.
Okay.
Seb Coe.
Oh, interesting.
So again, same reason to your one, as a youngster getting involved into athletics, and my preferred events were 8s and 15s. Seb Coe to me was one of the most graceful runners. He never looked knackered at the end of the race. He had such a nice way of running. He was the world record holder for almost 30 years for the 800 metres. 1:41.73. And, although he never won Olympic gold at 800 metres, ironically, it was at the 1500 when he won it twice. He was definitely in that golden generation of the 80s with the other middle distance runners from our country. Also, with Daley Thompson taking some medals as well. I would love to talk to him, not so much about his politics and his role now within world athletics, but definitely being part of that generation when they seemingly, again, because it was on TV and there wasn't much football, they'd have these, every so often there'd be someone going for a record for the mile again.
Yeah. And
there's this massive build-up and this massive sense of anticipation. And then another week, someone else would do it. Or it seemed to be really regular for a period of time in the mid-80s. I'd love to talk to him about that. That'd be my one. But I don't think Seb Coe and Daley Thompson get on because I'm pretty certain Seb Coe was obviously largely a lot behind the London Olympics.
Yeah.
And Daley Thompson wasn't really involved, was he?
No.
Which seems a shame.
It is, because like you say, Seb Coe, Daley Thompson, Ovett, Cram, Alan Wells, they were of a golden generation that, yes, has been replicated since then with other great names along the way. But they were the first. Yeah. They were the first that really brought athletics to the public consciousness.
Yeah, once it became a sport which was televised live. And, I remember watching getting up at some weird and wonderful times to watch the Olympics during certain periods of time between like the 80s and the mid-90s. And like I said, he was just such a graceful runner. So, I would definitely have Seb Coe in there. We would just have to be in different pubs.
Fair enough.
Oh, are we having these drinks on a different night with these people, by the way?
I think so, yeah.
Otherwise, this because it's a real weird mix
I don't
of
want to
people.
be rushing anyone out the door. I want to be getting my full
You want
time.
your one-to-one time, don't you?
Yeah. Especially my next one, because I'm going to need a lot of time with my next one.
Go on then.
Kevin Feige. I just want to talk to him about... tell me where the vision started. And now talk me through it.
Now, not everyone may know who you're talking about.
Okay, so Kevin Feige is the... I'm not sure what his exact title is, but he is the man that for 10, 11 years now has overseen the Marvel series of films.
I suppose if it was in TV terms, it'd be showrunner.
Yeah. So
Because
he's
someone who keeps that theme
Yeah.
and knows where although the individual stories are written by different people and maybe directed and produced by different people, there is a goal.
Yeah.
There is a story arc.
Yeah, so he's the one that's, despite the fact that every film has had a different director, a different producer, he is the one that has overseen it and made sure that the vision that he had at the outset of, okay, so this is where we're starting with Iron Man, and then this is where I want to end up with Endgame.
#GeekFest.
He's the one that made that happen.
That'd be fantastic.
Not on his own,
No.
obviously. There were directors and actors and everybody else that
Yeah.
goes into producing films. But I think without... And we've said this before on some of the film shows, this is where the DC universe have failed, because they haven't had a Kevin Feige type person that have overseen their films and sewn that golden thread throughout them all.
They nailed their TV universe. Much
Absolutely,
better than
yeah.
their cinematic universe. But yeah, Kevin Feige, that vision from Iron Man, which,
Yeah.
to all intents and purposes, as far as I was concerned, was like a one-off film.
Yeah, well, I thought it was at the time.
Brilliant one-off film, really enjoyed it. And then you see at the end, okay, there's definitely going to be an Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Okay, Iron Man 2. But then suddenly, then we have Hulk,
It's some other
4.
characters.
Captain America, 6 films, and then 6 films. We're going to put them all together in one big film.
Yeah.
And what I thought was a big film at the time, they sort of topped that a couple of times since then. But yeah, that would be a fascinating conversation. Yeah, you'd want just that one-to-one time.
And that's a day. That's a day that I'm...
Yeah, because I'm guessing everyone else on your list probably wouldn't be interested in that conversation anyway.
Probably not, no, but I'd love to sit down with Kevin Feige for a day, probably drinking a real low ABV cask
It would have to
beer,
be.
just slowly supping and just talking about that vision and just bringing it all together.
I might pop into the pub for that one.
Okay, you're welcome. And trying to find out what's happening next. That's the most important
Yeah, but
thing.
you wouldn't want to know all of it though, would you?
No, just bits.
Just bits.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
No spoilers.
Hashtag no spoilers.
Who's next for you, mate?
Peter Davison.
Ah, okay. So maybe the first Doctor.
Yeah.
Entrant.
So I paid attention to what people said and didn't say. So I didn't put my list just full of people who played the Doctor. Plus, there are more than 5 of them living, so it would have been a bit wrong. But Peter Davison was my Doctor. So obviously, I remember watching Tom Baker later in his run, but Peter Davison became the Doctor in 1981 when I think could quite rightly be classed as a fan. I was buying Doctor Who weekly before it became a monthly publication. I couldn't wait for the programme to come on. It was must-watch TV for me. This is before we even had a video player in the house as well. My knowledge of Doctor Who was very much limited to reading the Target novelisations, and I can remember watching the whole Peter Davison era, and then again, a bit like the Paul McCartney thing, finding there was like quite a lot of back catalogue to Doctor Who as well, which I still watch these days, and it's cost me a fortune in videos and then replaced by DVDs as well. Great idea. And I'd just like to talk to him because obviously he is also David Tennant's father-in-law as well.
I never knew that.
Yeah, because David Tennant married his daughter. So there is actually, the fandom was going a bit nuts when David Tennant married Peter Davison's daughter because, the father-in-law was going to be a doctor as well. So, I'm sure people have probably done fan fiction off the back of this as well. I don't read that stuff. But yeah, I'd love to talk to him about not just Doctor Who, but he's had a long career in acting, Peter Davison, as well. But, a lot of it would be, for me, how he felt about going into the role. Obviously, he followed the great Tom Baker as well. And also, he was considerably younger and younger looking than all the Doctors previously. So it was quite a shift in tone. So yeah, I would just love to have that, again, bit of a geeky conversation. because he was a Doctor Who fan as well. He is a Doctor Who fan, so he was probably the first actor to play the Doctor who had actually been watching it since it started as well.
Oh, okay.
So he could remember watching a lot of the older episodes. So yeah, that would be my Geek Fest bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So drum roll, number 5.
Okay, so I'm going to take a bit of a liberty with this one because...
Hold on, when I took liberties in previous fantasy shows...
That's why I'm taking a liberty. And I'm going for the entire cast of Friends.
As one person?
Yes.
That's way more of a liberty than I did with Vintage Ale. Well, I presume you're only talking about the 6 main characters. You're not just gonna...
yeah, not all of them.
You're not throwing in Gunter as well?
No, just the 6 main characters. And basically there's 2 reasons for this. One, it's because I couldn't come up with a 5th individual.
Actually, we were both struggling with...
Yeah.
My first 4 came really naturally. I'm not going to say which were my first 4, but it took me no time at all.
I really struggled. One of the names that would have been in there, and for many years, this man was a hero and an idol of mine before he had the biggest fall from grace ever, and that was Lance Armstrong. His story was amazing.
Yeah.
Until it was built on a house of lies.
Yes.
So I didn't feel as though I could include him. Although that might be quite an interesting conversation to have, is why did you feel as though you had to do that? So then I searched, and the only thing I could do was, I thought, well, these 6 individuals for 20 plus years have entertained me again and again and again, and even to the point where this past weekend I've watched episodes of Friends and I still laugh at them now. I think it's a time and a place in televisual history that will never be replicated by another sitcom.
It probably won't be replicated, and also obviously humour's moved on.
Yeah.
How things are phrased and shown have moved on as well. So you can see it sometimes. Some of it goes. I'm still laughing, but I think a few times. But yeah, I think when I was in the States with Michael and we were just chilling out after we'd been out in the evening, just happened on one of the many channels you can find when you're in the States, came across some Friends.
Yeah.
I was made.
And you sit and watch it.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a bit of a liberty.
A bit.
And okay, so maybe if I buy them a third each, that's only just over a pint.
You're going to buy them a third each.
Well, I'm not.
whole
I'm
cast of
obviously
Friends.
going to buy them each a pint, but for me, I don't think you can single in any one of them out. I think
So I could have just gone for the Doctor, and I could have had like loads.
Well,
Especially, yeah. I mean, I can't say anything.
you took a liberty last time, so
So you thought you would.
I'm having my setting the theme for future fantasy shows
Yeah.
and taking a liberty.
So your top 5 consists of 10 people.
Essentially, yeah.
Your 5 living beery people. I mean, I mean, you know, just saying about Friends. I got introduced to it when it was at the start of Series 2. And obviously went back to watch Series 1. But it's quite a shift in Series 1 to Series 2, I think, as well.
They're very young in Series 1.
Yeah, very young. It's almost like the tonal shift between original Blackadder and Blackadder 2.
Yeah.
Big difference between the two. And obviously with Blackadder it was Ben Alton, but had come on board by then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's quite good. You are taking liberty. You obviously need a bit of room for all of them.
Yes. So we'd be taking over the corner of a bar.
Yes, yeah.
Probably. I don't think I'd get them for more than a few hours.
But presumably, so the best place to go that I know would be the Vic then, because they've got a couple of sofas, so they'd feel right at home.
It would be perfect.
In front of a window.
It would be absolutely perfect. Yeah. So who's your last one?
Timothy Dalton.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I would have put money on that being Sean Connery.
No, because I don't know if I like him that much outside of being Bond.
Okay.
Whereas Timothy Dalton, I think, was both an excellent Bond and was ahead of his time in terms of the writing and the hard edge they gave him. I just don't think we were quite ready for that then. If you compare it to his performance to Daniel Craig's, it's a lot closer than Pierce Brosnan's to Daniel Craig's. But also, Timothy Dalton has also appeared in Doctor Who as well, so he's been Bond and in Doctor Who.
So he ticks all of the boxes for you.
Also, Timothy Dalton was the first cinematic Bond I saw. I hadn't been to the cinema to see any of the other Bond films up to that point.
I think I was probably the same actually. I think most of the Roger Moore films I saw
TV on bank holidays or something.
Yeah, at home.
There might be a lot of Bond being watched by me over the coming weeks. So yeah, it was my first cinematic Bond. I thought it was really good. And then I didn't know he was going to feature in David Tennant's final two-parter as Rassilon, Lord President of the Time Lords. And I thought, Bond playing a Time Lord. I was like very ecstatic about that.
I bet you were. All the geek points coming together there, yeah.
But I'd like to talk, and also, it was also in Flash Gordon.
He was, yeah.
So, if nothing else, it gives you an opportunity to saying Gordon is alive at some point, doesn't it? And him going, oh, I can't believe someone said that in my direction. But yeah, I would just love to have a chat with him because, again, about the two of my favourite things like Bond and Doctor Who. I'm not sure how much of a geek he is about either, to be honest, but he's also a very well respected stage actor, isn't he? So it'd be quite interesting to talk about his career in general, but very much for me focusing on those couple of... Well, I'd throw in Flash Gordon as well, actually, because I do love the film Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Still do.
I think that's on our long list of films to do for opinions on films.
Definitely.
It's just finding the right time to do
Finding the right
that.
time to do it. It's got a great soundtrack, hasn't it, as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it dovetails quite nice when we did Queen for Highlander, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy to do it again. So yeah, that's my final fight. That's the final one of my 5.
Excellent. You know what? I really enjoy doing these shows where we just get to let our imaginations run a little bit wild with a subject that we're given by a listener, and to have a bit of fun with it.
Definitely, and it's taking my mind off stuff that's happening outside.
Yeah, I think that's quite nice as well, and hopefully that will do this for everybody that's listening to the show as well, because it's not a great time at the moment, but this is just a little bit of escapism, isn't it?
It's definitely escapism for us at the moment.
Yeah,
definitely
for a while.
Well, we've both almost finished the Beavertown, one of our own IPA. What do you think?
It's really, really drinkable. It's got the sessionability of neck oil with quite a lot of the flavour of gamma ray in there as well. It's lovely and lemony. It's got a really nice crisp finish to it. The bitterness is quite subtle on the finish. It's designed for a purpose.
It's almost like they've collaborated with themselves.
Yeah. They've designed this for tens of thousands of fans to drink while they're watching football.
Well, probably not while you're watching.
No, but before, during, and at half time and afterwards. And it just works for that purpose.
I think it's superbly drinkable. That lemony overtone seemed to sort of stick with it all the way through. They never really died off. Smooth, is low, easy bitterness.
Yeah.
Effectively, it's just, I know that they call neck oil now a session IPA, don't they? But for me, this feels like a nice sessionable IPA.
Yeah, I get that. It's designed to be a stadium exclusive, but I think they might be missing a trick by not putting this into small pack, because there are probably, like most football teams, there are probably lots of Spurs fans that don't maybe live in London and don't get to go to the ground, that would like to enjoy this. And
hopefully they'll find a way. And like I said, the glasses, and obviously I'm not off any stretch of imagination, a Spurs fan, the glasses did look quite nice actually as well. So if you're a Spurs fan and you like your beer, I think you wouldn't mind one of those glasses.
Yeah.
So I mean, at least get the glasses into the gift shop,
so people can buy them to take away.
Exactly. So but thank you again, Beavertown, for sending those through to us, and it accompanied the our little list quite nicely actually.
It did. So now we're going to go into some of our listeners' feedback.
Yep.
A bit of an overview on the responses that we had. So it's always quite difficult when we get responses to something that isn't a poll. But as always, the question will be in the show notes. You can click on that. You can read through everybody's responses to this. We had over 40 people respond to this with various names, giving us 150 plus names, a lot of which I have to admit I had to look up on Google.
There was a few I had to look up
because I'd never heard of before.
And someone very handily a few people did actually put in brackets who they were.
Yes, yeah, they did. So I then split that down into various categories, and I've got percentages of those categories as well. So 16% were from sport, 15% from film, 18% from music, 21% from TV, 2% from politics, and then 25% from other, which includes things like writing, journalism, science, and food as well. So that's how it breaks down. And then what I also had was kind of a top table of responses as well, because there were a few names that came up a couple of times, and these were the top 3 responses that we had. So leading the pack by quite some distance was Bob Mortimer with 6 nominations. We then had Jurgen Klopp with 3, and Stephen Fry with 3 as well. And then there was a whole load on 2, but I thought, well, 2's all right, but if you've had 2 or more, then surely you get to be on that top table.
I think so. And Stephen Fry's appeared in Doctor Who this season as well.
Look at you! You are loving this. This is the closest you're ever going to get to a Doctor Who show, isn't it? You know it, and you're going to ride this for all it's worth.
And there's a little bit of football thrown in as well.
Yeah, that's true. So just before we jump into some of the comments from the listeners, you've poured another beer for us.
Well, I thought it was the only sensible thing to do.
Yep. And what have we got now?
Cosmic Liquid Kiss from Yeastie Boys. This is an India Pale Ale. Comes in at 7%, and it's brewed with their friends at Round Corner Brewing, who we discovered fairly recently, I think, actually.
Oh, we did, yes. But it's also, correct me if I'm wrong, brewed with Kvik yeast.
It is indeed. So it's Nelson Sauvin hops, and it's got that particular yeast in there as well, which I've decided not to try and
You've
stay.
decided you're not going to try and say that. So, lovely and clear in the glass. Big fluffy head on it as well.
Yeah, great carbonation. So let's see what we think then.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, that's bitter.
Oh, it's thick as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that because it's so clear. I wasn't expecting that sort of thicker, it's almost an oily...
Wow, that's some body on that.
Oily mouthfeel, hasn't it?
It's a little bit resinous.
Yeah.
And, like I say, really oily, bitter finish to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we discovered a few beers from Round Corner when we were at Brew London, and I think we were impressed with them.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And lovely people as well.
Yeah, we got to try their West Coast IPA.
Yeah, and we tried their dark lager and their Imperial.
Rum barrel aged dark lager.
Yeah, I mean, who ever thought that would be a thing?
Yeah.
So it describes it on the side saying gold, lustrous, aromatic, gooseberry, pomelo, orange zest, delicious. There's a couple of ones in there which I wouldn't know. The pomelo, I've got no
idea there.
Reference point. The rest of it, I'm getting that. I mean, it looks beautiful in the glass and it tastes fantastic. Drinks really well, and it's definitely got that sort of almost an oily fruit juice kind of quality to it. But that's really nice. How did we come across this one?
So this was a gift as well. I was in Two Brews in Colchester, and Alastair, Yeastie Boys' new sales rep, was in there, and he handed me a few beers to try, and this was one of them. Yeah, so he just handed me a few beers. We've got a couple more that we're going to try at some point, whether it be on air or off air, which we're very grateful for. And this was the one from the 3 that they gave us that I most wanted to try on the show because of the yeast that shall not be named.
Yes. And also it says India Pale Ale on the side as well.
Yeah, that's always going to be a winner, isn't it?
It's a good start, isn't it?
Let's be honest. So while we enjoy this, let's rattle through some of our listeners' top 5. So first from the Owl Lady, who suggested this question. Her top 5 were, and again, I'm assuming none of these are in order.
I don't think so. I think it's just the way they've been put down.
Julie Walters, Dexter Fletcher, Nigel Owens, Reese Shearsmith, and Tom Hanks.
Well, I know all of them to start off with. I saw a documentary about Julie Walters at the weekend.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't mind meeting her, definitely. That's a good list.
Yeah. And then she asked her mum as well, and her mum's list was Cliff Richard, David Walliams, Simon Cowell, Christopher Biggins, and Mary Portas, to which Danny simply said,
Was that about the last person or all of them?
I think it was about all of them. I think it was about the entire list there. I wouldn't mind meeting David Walliams, actually. I think you could have a really fun discussion with him.
Oh, look at some of the stuff he's done.
Yeah.
I think you could. He's a very talented guy as well, isn't he? I mean, children's book writer, all those series he's come up with. Yeah, I think it'd be a cracking conversation.
And he always seems genuinely funny as well.
Yeah.
When he's on like the live stuff, like Britain's Got Talent.
And he did that swimming thing. Did he swim the channel in the end? He did some sort of swimming challenge.
Didn't he swim the Thames, the length of the Thames,
There was
well as the channel.
There was, and you're like, that's a real challenge to give anyone, but let alone somebody who don't necessarily associate with
getting in the Thames.
the sport. Well, actually, the water in the Thames actually looks worse than it is.
Really?
Because it's such a low-lying river.
Yeah.
So you've got all the silt being turned around all the time. But if you actually see how much stuff is actually alive in the Thames, as in like fish and what you class as pond life, so to speak, it's actually quite a healthy river these days.
Okay.
The reason why it used to freeze over when they used to have the frost fairs is because of the amount of dirt in there. It used to freeze easier than it would do now.
Look at that. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts about the River Thames.
I don't know where that all suddenly came from.
I'm amazed. I've got no words.
Right, well, I think I should do... I think I'll
I'm
read
going to
out
let
now.
you take this next one.
So, Paul at UNRCD. Number 1, Jurgen Klopp. Number 2, Kenny Dalglish. Number 3, Idris Elba.
That's a good shout.
That is a good shout. I mean, I'd be quite happy with that first 3 there anyway. Angelina Jolie. And then Tyson Fury. So, quite a mix of people there.
The last one really surprised me.
The last one surprised me as well. I mean, because I think he's quite a divisive character for a lot of people anyway. But he would be interesting.
He would be very interesting.
He would be interesting. Yeah. And, you know, if you're talking about... he's got people talking about boxing who aren't necessarily people who aren't necessarily boxing fans.
Yes.
He has captured... He's captured something there for people. So I like that. I do like that list. Idris Elba, we could do a bit of the Marvel thing there.
Yes, easily.
And obviously Luther.
Yeah. Lots to talk to him about.
And you know, I've got King Kenny and Jurgen Klopp there, so I'm happy with that.
That's quite a good list.
Yeah, and Angelina Jolie was in Tomb Raider. I actually don't know how many other films she was in.
She's in the next Marvel film. She's in an upcoming Marvel film.
Oh, is she? What the
Eternals?
Oh yeah, of course she is.
She's finally made it.
There we go.
she's in a Marvel film. Yeah.
Next up, from Neil Hayden at Neil Hayden 73, Lucy Worsley, historian, author, TV presenter.
That was one of the ones I had to look up.
Oh, I knew her.
I have to admit.
I knew her.
Okay.
Neil Finn, I wouldn't have known that was who from Crowded House.
I suspected it was because it's the Finn brothers that were Crowded House, plus the rest of the band.
Oh, okay. Reverend and the Makers.
That's a band, so he's taken liberties there as well.
There's a lot of this going around, isn't there?
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. Look how long he's been around. He loves some tales still. And then William Dafoe, the actor.
That's a great one as well. That one really came out of left field.
That one did.
But really made me think, actually, I wouldn't mind a pint with Willem Dafoe. I think he'd be an interesting chap to sit down with for the afternoon.
He's done a wide range of films.
Yeah. And he was Green Goblin in one of the original Spider-Mans.
In the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And which I actually really enjoyed that.
Yes,
that film.
I did.
So that's when Sony weren't cocking it up.
Yeah, yeah. So next up from Carl M at Marshall R. Cole. Number 1, Jim Moyer. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
Vic Reeves. That's his real name.
Carl, that's not helping Carl, is it?
I was really surprised when I looked it up. Number 2, Talib Kweli. Sorry if I've butchered that. But he's a rapper. Paul Rudd. We know who Paul Rudd is.
Ant-Man.
And
he was in Friends.
Yeah. Nora Jones and Christina Scabbia, which, again, I had to look her up, and she's a musician. She is the joint lead singer of a heavy metal band.
I hadn't heard of her.
No,
so that's a really eclectic mix, isn't it?
It is.
Paul Rudd seems to sit oddly in there.
Paul Rudd is a strange one.
Compared to the others.
I'm guessing he's put him on there because he might get on with Vic Reeves. From the comedy,
there'd be a comedy aspect to it, wouldn't there?
To it, yeah.
But yeah, well, that one struck me as sitting slightly left field compared to the others.
Very, very much so. Next up from Becky at Becky Boogaloo, Tom Hardy. Don't really think Becky got to the idea of what we were going for.
Yeah, she's definitely doing a different night out, isn't she?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a beer with Tom Hardy actually. I think he's got quite a range of character portrayal behind him. He's been in all sorts of things. He played a great role, or continues to play a great role in Peaky Blinders. He's been in.
He was in the last Christian Bale Batman film.
Yeah, he was in Venom.
As
the which I know you didn't like as a film.
Shit.
But I quite like Tom Hardy. I like that one.
He does come across, but he doesn't take it too seriously.
Yeah, and he seems quite down to earth as well. He does seem like a bloke you could approach in a pub and go, "Can I buy you a pint?"
Yeah, I quite like that about him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'd want to be there when Becky's there with him.
No, She clearly wants him all to herself.
Yeah, it's basically get a room for it. Get a room! From Sean O'Reilly and Crulia, Billy Bragg, Pete Brown, Paul Mariner, Akala, or Akala, a rapper. I didn't expect Sean to have a rapper in there.
I didn't at all.
And Neil Gaiman, author. So I know 4 out of the 5 there.
Okay, I only knew the top 3.
You knew Paul Mariner?
Yeah, he used to play for Ipswich.
Yeah, well done.
And played for England, didn't he?
It was in the 90s. I'm sure it was at the 1980
Because
World
I
Cup.
used to collect sticker books.
Oh, right, okay. To a point in your life.
Yeah. Sean did also have multiple other entries as well. He had a list of beery people related to the podcast that he wanted to meet. He had, I think there was a second list. Then he realised he didn't have any women in his list, so he did a list purely of women as well. So Sean was really going for it.
Yeah, he enjoyed that one then.
On this,
he enjoyed that one.
Next up from Ruth Mitchell at Beer Ferry, Jess Phillips, who's an MP, Michelle Obama, Jane Fonda, Emma Thompson and Sandy Togsvig. She went on to say, brilliant, bright, challenging, interesting and funny women, and I would imagine the makings of an excellent party.
It's a good mix. I mean, they've done. I mean, I thought Jess Phillips always comes across quite well on TV when she was a potential candidate for the Labour Party for the leadership. I mean, Michelle Obama. I mean, she's been at the highest echelons of power. Jane Fonda, she's been around for forever. Emma Thompson, fantastic actress. And Sandy Torsvig had gone from being comedian and writer to doing, is it MasterChef or whatever the one is?
Oh, the Bake Off.
Bake Off.
Yeah.
So that's a real wide variety of people there.
I never looked at it that way of having 5 people that I bring together for maybe that's another one we do, a fantasy dinner party.
Yeah, but that's because we're being selfish. We want that one-on-one time with these people.
Yeah, I don't want them talking to each other. I want them talking to me.
It's all about me. It's my party.
From James at Gammon Baron, Bob Mortimer, Jackie Chan, Jurgen Klopp, Grayson Perry, and Rusty Lee.
I'm loving some of these number 5s.
Just a real standout, that Rusty Lee.
Last in the past as well.
I know James loves his cooking. And he does a wide range of cuisines. I can only imagine that his inspiration for Rusty Lee comes from that.
I imagine so. But yeah, it just sort of stands out again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From John at a Beer in the Suburb, Taylor Swift, Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Get it.
Mark Hoppus, Graham Westley. I assume he must be a fan of Stephen Isden.
Yeah.
The bloke that runs the Cinema Massacre YouTube channel, James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd. I definitely wouldn't have known that.
That took some serious looking up.
I was going to say, I bet you had to do a bit of work on that one.
That one.
There is a phrase calling it, Google it.
Quite a mix again there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Taylor Swift, I can imagine someone's a little bit jealous about Taylor Swift going for a drink with John. Grandad Greg at Greg1954. James Martin, Tony Robinson, Ben of Ice Cream fame, Jerry. He's got Ben and Jerry on there.
Well, his list simply said Ben and Jerry, and I'm like, so as I put on these notes, I put in brackets, is that of Ice Cream fame?
You'll have to let us know. It's got to be, surely. There's no other Ben and Jerry's. And then Brian Wilson. So, again, eclectic mix there.
A very strange mix there.
Oh, yeah. Ben and Jerry.
I know Greg is a big fan of visiting Boston in the States, and I know that's where Ben and Jerry's are originally from.
Yeah.
So it's got to be Ben and Jerry.
I would say it is.
Ice cream
and then you've got Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys, and Baldrick, and a TV chef.
Yeah. What a mix.
I'm not a massive fan of James Martin, TV chef.
I'm not either.
The saying about it doesn't quite click with me.
Yeah, I think he's of an age. He's of a period. He's of that first class of Ready Steady Cook, maybe, and things have moved on since.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Then.
I don't even know if it's out. Maybe I just don't like him. He probably wouldn't like me, to be fair.
So next up, Carl Gunner at KL Gunner, Stephen Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Kylie Minogue. That's a hell of a list.
That is a hell of a list. I'm not, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. I mean, there's plenty of times people have wanted to see them more often in films together, and he just wants to have a drink.
Why not, if you can?
And then you've got Stevie G and Jamie Carragher. That's a good mix. And obviously Kylie Minogue was also in Doctor Who.
Was she?
She did one of the Christmas specials. Do you know the one with the Titanic? Don't remember it?
Don't remember.
Probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
It's possible I've watched it more than once.
Richard Taylor at Rich Taylor 1608, Stephen Fry, John Barnes, Ozzy Osbourne, Richard E. Grant, and then Amber Heard. Now, it has to be said that that's the actor and not the politician. I think. I'm not sure. Richard wasn't clear. When I searched Amber Heard, the actor came up first.
I will go with that.
But it might also be the politician.
Go for that.
I'm sure Rich will
So we've
clarify.
got Stephen Fry, been in Doctor Who. John Barnes played for Liverpool. Richard E. Grant, been in Doctor Who. There we go. Good list, Richard. basing on Doctor Who connections. Tanked Up at Tanked Upcast. Eric Cantona. Scarlett Johansson. Nice one. Hideo Kojima. Blimey, you would have had to look that one up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Bill Murray and Alana Pierce. That is a really eclectic mix, isn't it? Eric Cantona, Scarlett Johansson, Hideo Kojima, Bill Murray and Alana Pierce. That's really mixed.
I think that's a real reflection of Tanked Up as a podcast, because they do beer and games. So you've got a video game designer on there. The last one, Alana Pierce, for people that don't know, she does like video blogs. So she's a video journalist. And then you've got a little bit of football thrown in, although they've been very specific there in saying they didn't want the Cronenberg era Cantona.
I prefer the Cronenberg era because the rest of the other bit is Man United. So I'm going to take the Cronenberg era.
Okay. Scarlett Johansson
Goes without saying.
Bill Murray, two great actors.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. And last, but not least, in a similar vein to Becky Boogaloo,
Yeah.
Mark at Mark N. Johnson has said, "Can I just buy Taylor Swift 5 beers?"
I'm sure we'll allow Mark that.
Yeah. We've heard you're a bit of a fan.
Yes, just a little bit. That was just a very small sample of some of the responses we had. Like I say, there is a link in the show notes if you want to click through and look at all of the responses. If you want to keep it going, use the hashtag Hopinions, and you may very well find yourself in this next section of the show.
Let us know, write it down. Let us know, write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
So we've got quite a lot of feedback to go through here.
There is a lot.
Because we've got people going back over quite a few shows, because we've tended to kind of avoid doing this sort of stuff when we've had guests.
Yes.
Recently, because this is more about us than it is about the guests. So we'll try and work our way through this as quickly as possible.
Shall I start off reading so you can drink a bit more beer though?
Probably for the best, seeing as I've just noticed your glass is empty.
So, Opinions 100 Vintage. Just listened to number 100. Congrats on the milestone, gent. Biggest thing for me as a listener over the last few years is the community you've built. Here's to the next 100. And that's for Simon at A Barley Wine is Life. And obviously, lucky enough to meet Simon at the Crimbo Crawl. So, thank you very much for that. That one actually, we love that particular comment. Because it's not just about doing the podcast. It's actually about getting out there and meeting people. And other people meeting each other, whether we're there or not. Yeah,
it's been really interesting over the last few months to listen to some of the other podcasts we listen to, talking about the Crimbo Crawl in particular, and talking about the people that they met through it, who are people that they've always wanted to meet through podcasting.
Yeah. It's been really nice to see that, and if we've been able to play any small part in it, then I'm gonna take that as a win.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Finally got round to listening to Opinions 102, Weights and Measures. Really enjoyed the short format. Did it in the walk to and from work. I still like the long format, but it was good to do it in short blasts. And that's from Greg Bullman at Greg Bullman.
I think we're just trying our best at the moment, just to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah.
We are trying to get maybe a little bit tighter with the shows, so that they're not the really long ones. Sometimes there'll be a short one, sometimes there'll be one that's a little bit longer.
Yeah, and obviously we've got a cracking guest on like we did when we had Nat, then we're just going to let him run with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we definitely want to slow him down, do we? Rich Taylor at Rich Taylor 1608. Ahoy, gents. Love this week's show and thanks for all the mentions and for answering my question about bottle shares. UK guideline is 0.05% for non-alcoholic alcohol free. 0.05% but less than 0.5% is de-alcoholized and low alcohol is no more than 1.2. I hope everyone got that because I think I read it out really badly. However, That still makes my point about people who don't drink alcohol at all, like for religious reasons. Even 0.05 has alcohol.
It's still alcohol.
It's still alcohol.
Yeah.
My colleague who works at Southern still wouldn't drink it. Sean O'Reilly at Uncrulia. Mr. Stats. I was going to weigh in with the same info, but you've beaten me to it, Rich. With it being half term, I'm busy catching up on paperwork in school. Poor me. We have been holding on to this for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Glad that I inadvertently prompted some content. In order to maintain my hashtag facts guy status, I shall give you the lowdown on sea buckthorn. It isn't a seaweed, it's actually a shrub that can grow up to 6 metre tall close to the sea. Okay, we went a little bit.
I was close.
Yeah, physically. It has grey-green leaves, thorns and orange berries. The berries are used in a variety of cosmetics and traditional medicines. Okay, that is stuff I definitely want to know.
Well, now we know.
Now we know. Facts guy.
Yes. We've both finished the Cosmic Liquid quiz.
Well, I'm glad you finished yours. I was ages ago.
Sorry, from the Yeastie Boys. I was busy talking, mate. Final thoughts on this beer?
Really enjoyed it. I think maybe a whole 440 to myself. It may have got a little bit sweet.
It started to become a little bit sweet, a little bit cloying.
Yeah.
Towards the end of it there.
But because
thickness.
we shared the can and it was still quite cold for most of it, I think we managed to avoid maybe that aspect of it. But again, like a lot of the Yeastie Boys beers, they just do some really interesting stuff, don't they?
It's really interesting and really tasty.
Yeah.
It's the Yeastie Boys seem to really work with tastes.
Yeah.
And different tastes and what that can do to the palate. And that did lots.
Oh yeah, and again, 7%.
Didn't taste it.
No, didn't taste it at all, did it?
No.
The only thing I would say about the Yeastie Boys is that it's their branding's a little bit all over the place.
I really dislike their branding.
I wouldn't say
there's no common theme to any of it apart from their logo.
Yeah, and I think they could do better with that. I think I know that they're always trying to be doing different beers and stuff, but there needs to be a little bit more of bringing the family of branding and all their stuff together a bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are 2 or 3 core beers, like, you know, the Earl Grey, the Pot Kettle Black, those kind of ones, they all feel part of the same family, whereas the other ones feel like they sort of fall outside it.
Yeah.
It's the only thing some people will probably like it because they're doing something different all the time, but I just think for standing out on the shelf, you could easily miss it.
Easy, very easily, yeah.
So,
and it was nice to see Stu recently.
Yeah, it was
at Brew London.
But I've already got magically got a beer in front of us again.
You have. Now this is part of an ongoing experiment that we're going to do.
It is.
So at the end of last year's show, we featured the Camden Beer 2019, the
Brut Imperial Pilsner, which comes in at a really sessionable, sensible, from Waitrose, 11%.
Barrel aged as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and we both really enjoyed this beer.
Isn't it a wine barrel?
Yeah. And one of our listeners got in touch, so it was Discombobulated at Discombobulated, got in touch and said, why don't you revisit that beer over the next year? And initially I was like, not £9 a bottle, thanks for the suggestion, but no. And then they reduced it to £5 a bottle, and I said to you, why don't we do that revisit thing? So we're actually going to revisit this beer every 3 months.
Yes.
To see how it changes from that initial taste that we had of it back in December last year,
which was really quite winey, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we both really enjoyed it.
We did enjoy it.
So this is 3 months on.
Yeah, should we tuck in?
Cheers.
Now, whether this is my memory playing tricks with me, but the aroma doesn't seem quite so white wine-like.
The aroma's more oaky.
Yeah.
Now it's softened off a little bit. I've just had a little sip. The flavours have dialed down a little bit as well. It's a little bit softer.
I think it's a bit softer, but I think your initial thing about the oak is coming through a bit more now. I think.
Yeah, there's a bit more sweetness in there.
I feel like the grape has tailed off a little bit.
Yeah,
the actual grape aroma and grape flake.
And that's just in 3 months.
Yeah, it's 3 months.
So it's going to be interesting. So we're going to do this again in 3 months' time. We're going to do it again in 6 months' time.
And finish off in the year.
And and we're just going to see how it continues to progress.
What I would say is it's still very tasty, and it would. again, for people who say, well, I don't like beer and stuff, it would definitely challenge your perception of a beer.
It's massively drinkable.
Yeah, for 11%.
Yeah.
It's definitely got, but it has still got some of the, like the oak tannins. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
That's
actually.
what's coming out.
Yeah.
So no,
it's almost beginning, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes, because it's almost beginning to pick up some of the notes that you get from a Cantillon or a sour, some maybe a little bit of Brett coming in there, and it'll be interesting to see as time goes on.
I wouldn't be surprised
whether
if
more of that starts to come through.
A bit more funky.
Yeah, I think it's going to go full on funk.
I think we'll be able to judge it by what you think.
That's true.
So
my facial expression as I try it. Let's dive back into some of these comments. So from Stephen O'Kane at Socrates9, regarding the American pint, since 473ml is to the top of the glass, you're really only getting about 4.3ml in each pint. When I lived there, I was horrified when I worked that out. I noticed it after a month or so when I got a pint glass home and was shocked when a normal bottle can of beer, 345ml over there as opposed to 330ml here, nearly filled the glass.
I like that. I was horrified.
Horrified by it.
I hadn't really given much consideration to whether it went to the whole top of the glass, but I suppose that does make sense. Then with the head and a bit of lacking, so yeah, you're down to the 430. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Next up from Ryan Carter at Ryan Carter 10. So this was sent to us via DM. It's quite long, so bear with us on this one. Evening both, as always, a great show, even though I still miss the 2+ hours format. I just wanted to drop you a message, as I feel the amount you have both grown my beer knowledge and massively enhanced my journey is well worth mentioning. I'm a chap who lives and works in Lancashire in the luxury hospitality industry, a 30-minute drive from Manchester. Myself and my partner have recently purchased a house, so I'm grinding away spending copious amounts on paint and furniture. I have little or no time or money to socialise, and my one treat a month is a £30 allowance from Honest Brew that I allow myself. My only real indulgence is listening to you guys. Since the Jaeger Y show, I have both kept up and started to listen in reverse. I'm currently going through you guys' response to the Beavertown buyout, and for someone only recently new into the beer scene, relatively around a year, your insight is massively interesting, expanding my knowledge massively. In summary, a massive thank you for spending precious time putting out this podcast for us. Time is the most precious commodity we possess, and what you chaps provide is truly brilliant. Many thanks, gentlemen, and wish you the best for the future.
It was really nice, because I remember you sending that to me as a screenshot, and it's a really nice thing to see, and I think that's about some of the other podcasts I listen to, both beery and others, that people are putting the time and effort into producing something that you enjoy listening to. So to have someone directly contact us to say that, not only does he feel we've helped him on his beer journey, despite our lack of facts often, but he, by and large, he enjoys it as well.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you very much, Ryan.
Yeah. I think that's a great point that you make there about the time that we put into doing this. I mean, if you take as an example the recent collaboration show that you appeared on between Men Behaving Badly and Beers Without Frontiers, you look at the time that the collective people around that table spent travelling to the venue, planning the podcast, recording the two shows, travelling home, separately editing two podcasts, then putting that out and promoting it. It takes a huge amount of our time, and we get no financial reward for doing this. No. Yes, we get a few free beers sent to us every now and again, which we're always quite open and honest about in terms of whether we've had them or not. But that's not what we look for. We do it because we enjoy doing it. Yeah,
we enjoy having a chat, and hopefully other people do as well. I mean, we probably could have saved ourselves 5 hours or so if it wasn't for Simon's audio equipment from Beers Without Frontiers. It's all those microphones and buttons and wires.
Professional.
Yeah.
An absolute professional.
It was absolutely fantastic piece of kit, I have to admit. It was really good kit, and I think you can tell when you hear it as well.
Yeah.
So, lastly on episode 102, Johnny Beerboy at Johnny Beerboy just heard my Birmingham heavy tweets on the show. Cheers for the shout out, and I did indeed try the Champion fixed wheel stout and can confirm it was delicious. Although Wylam's Jake Head on Cask was my beer of the day. Now, I haven't seen Jake Head on cask since I was in Newcastle anyway.
Neither have I.
And I don't know if it's quite the same beer as the one I fell in love with 4 or 5 years ago. But if it is, then I can see why that'd be your beer today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Moving on to Opinions 103 The Chase, which I think was the last show.
That's the one with Nat.
Yes, this was the last show. Quite a lot of feedback on this as well. And again, thanks to everyone that continues to feedback on what we do. First up from Rich Taylor at Rich Taylor 1608. This episode has just become one of my favourite episodes. What a fascinating beer journey Nat has been on, and I love to hear, read more, and maybe she could visit the Vic one day. I'm hoping to start gaining beer qualifications later this year, so this was a great insight. On the subject of blending beers, people have been blending for decades: light and bitter, black and tan, mild and bitter, and Tiny Rebel's 8th birthday beers more recently. Originally it was due to beer quality issues, but then it just carried on as it worked.
Now, interesting, I think Nat did respond to a few of these tweets as well.
She did, yes.
And there was a little bit of chat between them and stuff, and which I really enjoyed. And yes, I think there's probably a blending show out there for us at some point.
I think so, but I think we've got to get the right beers.
It's got to be the right beers, and it may be one we need to do with someone who may have a few more facts about the blending as well. But I'm still not necessarily, I'm in favour, but I'm interested.
I'm quite interested in the 3 that Richard has suggested here, actually, because these are more traditional ones that I've heard of. So light and bitter, black and tan, not so much mild and bitter.
Mild and bitter I'm unfamiliar with, because even when I started drinking, you still didn't see many milds.
Yeah.
But light and bitter and black and tan, both seen those before.
Yeah.
And they're familiar phrases to me. So yeah, it'd be interesting to do that one day, actually.
Yeah.
The Cheshire Brew House at the Cheshire Brew. I just took a couple of hours out of my day to have a listen. Yet another great podcast, and thanks so much for the positive review. I love making the old beers and would love to make more of them. We have such a rich but lost flavour history in the UK. So that's regarding the Gibraltar Porter, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's Shane.
Yeah.
Who brewed that? What I really like is when we get sent a beer. As I said previously, we get sent quite a few beers. Not all of them make it onto the show. We kind of pick and choose what we want to feature. But I like it when we feature a beer and the brewery or the brewer actually takes the time to listen to what we've said about their beer.
Definitely.
And then feeds back to us about what they thought about what we thought about their beer.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I was really made up when I saw this one, because we've had a good bit of interaction with Cheshire Brew House over the years, haven't we, with Shane? And, firstly, what I want to say is that I think he's shared three lots of beers with us, but they have all been fantastic. And as I said before, after one show, I did just order a case of beer from the place.
Yeah, we've not had a single bad beer from
Cheshire Brew House. Some really good beers. And the Gibraltar Porter, if you get hold of it, it's well worth a try.
Absolutely.
Well worth a try.
Yeah.
This dovetailed quite nice into the next comment from Richard Swindells. Great show, guys. Really enjoyed listening. Glad you enjoyed my brother's Gibraltar Porter. Maybe I'll get to try it soon too. I thought it was brilliant, because that means that Shane has sent it to us first, rather than his brother.
And not to his own brother, who lives just down the road in Colchester.
Oh, well, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Continuing on the theme, so ABV Art by Volume, who designed the artwork on the Gibraltar Porter can. Just listen to the podcast. Thanks for the shout out, folks. Really pleased to have been able to work with Shane at the Cheshire Brew House on his first foray into canning his beers. Yeah,
nice little link there.
Yeah.
And obviously, for anyone who doesn't quite remember, Art by Volume are behind our recent rebrand.
They are, and I think all of the winners have now been in touch and should have their own signed versions of the artwork.
Oh, nice one. Excellent. From Discombobulated at Discombobulated. Another great show. And nice to have it. I'm not reading this one out. You're having a laugh, Rob. Nice to have a beer expert's opinion for once. Unsurprisingly, I have on occasion walked right back out of pubs with rubbish beer selections. So now you know someone that has. From
Pete at Hops and Hoops. And this was when we released the last show. There were a few other podcasts came out at the same point. Pete made the point of UK beer podcast totally smashed it yesterday. Great episodes from Beer O'Clock Show, Ferment Radio and Hot Forward Beers. Excellent content in all.
Thank you very much,
I
Pete.
think that just shows the good health that UK beer podcasting is in.
Definitely at the moment. Definitely.
Ian Hay at II Hay. Excellent as always. I'll be checking out Nat's podcast. Has not listened before, and she was a brilliant guest.
It's well worth checking out. A new one dropped very recently as well, so give them a listen.
I think they're weekly on a Wednesday.
Something like that,
at the moment.
and she does them in 10 episodes per season, she was saying, didn't she?
Simon Webster at Beesboy. Enjoyed listening to the current episode with Beer with Nat on my walk here to start a Friday night exploration of the Bermondsey Beer Mile. I would never have gone on a Friday night.
Well, I suppose I went to the Colonel.
A lot of places are now open on Friday night.
There's a load of them on there. It used to be just a Saturday, didn't it?
Yeah.
From Mr. WP at Mr_SWP. Another super interesting guest on the show. Thanks a lot for answering my question, Nat. Loved hearing how you got where you are now and about your passion for beer. And I think, that was echoed quite a lot actually with a lot of comments and stuff. It was listening to Nat's journey, which is a fascinating journey actually, and the risks and the chances she took and the confidence she had in her own ability. So I'm glad everyone enjoyed it, because we certainly enjoyed sitting down talking to her, didn't we, and listening to her story.
Great chat. Yeah.
So I'm glad it came across, I have to admit.
Yeah.
So from Craig Henderson at the Manchester Smoggy. Just listen to the show, guys. Great as always. I really enjoyed listening to Beer with Nat. Great passion and knowledge. I enjoyed it even more when she pulled my name out of the hat for the Art by Volume competition. Thanks, guys. Well, no wonder you really liked her.
From Adam Johnson at Maybe Not a Fad. Clearly, Beer with Nat was a good influence on you two. As Martin said, don't think we've ever said drink responsibly. Lovely podcast. Listen to both. So nice to see a collaboration.
There we go. Collaboration on podcasting as well as beers. And we actually we didn't drink that much.
We didn't. We only drank 3 beers, which I think somebody commented on as well.
Yeah.
And was expecting a much shorter show with only 3 beers.
Yeah, and it was actually quite a long show.
Yeah.
For only 3 beers.
From Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert, our chap's apology accepted, although really not required. And that definitely was my comment on this week's poll. Really enjoyed the chat with Nat. Currently totally overthinking my proposed lineup for 5 who I'd buy a beer for. # can I have 10?
Oh, Steve did.
I did.
From Paul at UNRCD. Absolutely loved this show. So many interesting topics I was commenting. One of the interesting things was the discussion about pulling a pint and keeping the nozzle out of the beer. We'll definitely keep an eye out for this in the future. I don't reckon you'll be alone in this particular environment. No,
but I think there was a point that Nat made in terms of it being keg related, not cask related.
And that's on the next. So Adam Nicholson at Adam Nitch. I was about to comment until Nat clarified that this was for keg draft dispense. I've been to a couple of terrible places that don't dip the cask nozzle, just spraying it with a sparkler like a bloody cleaning spray.
That's not what anybody wants, is it?
No, definitely not.
And then last one from Sophie at So Beer Blogger. Another great show, guys. I'm feeling so inspired listening to Nat to think about completing my beer sommelier certification, which friends and family have been encouraging me to do recently. The discussion on confidence, in particular women's in the beer industry, resonated with me and has helped encourage me to believe in my own ability.
Well, that's brilliant then.
Yeah.
And it's Sophie, if you do it, good luck. And, obviously let us know how you get on.
And I think Sophie and Nat are possibly now talking
as
well, in terms of Nat giving us some advice.
Nat made a very genuine open offer, and I think she made the same offer to Rich as well.
Yeah.
His qualification. So that's really nice of Nat to do that, because that's still going to take time out of her day. So good luck to anyone who's taking the exams.
Yeah. And thank you to everyone for that feedback on the last few shows. I'm sorry it's built up a little bit.
Yeah, sorry it's taken a while.
Yeah. But
it doesn't feel appropriate to do it when we've got a guest.
Yeah, but it's important to us that we do that.
Yes.
To give people a shout out when they take time to comment on what we've done, because that's a huge part of what we're about.
Yes, definitely.
Keep using the hashtag opinions to feedback on what you hear on the show. And if you want to ask us any questions, you may very well get your question read out in this next part of the show.
Questions fill my head.
So, from Discombobulated, whose idea it was to drink this beer tonight. Do you ever drink in your local pub, i.e. the one closest to your home? So very specific, because we've spoken about your local.
Okay. Geographical? No. Never.
My one obviously burned down, but is due to open again soon.
It's back up now, isn't it?
Well, The current plan, bearing in mind the news we shared earlier and the news which everyone will have seen and read about by the time they listen to the show, they was supposed to be in 2 weeks' time. They were going to have like a grand reopening. So that may be put on hold. But generally, no. I go there because someone in the family has decided we're going to go and eat there. It's a chef and brewer, and it's a Green King-led pub. No.
Okay. My closest pub is quite a rough estate pub now that I've moved, that I have ventured in once and couldn't wait to get out of there.
So not venturing back then?
No. And the next one after that is up at the station, and that's a Green King pub as well. So no, I don't ever drink in my local pub.
No. So good question though.
Yeah.
I wish that I did have that local pub so close to me that I would love to drink. It'd be brilliant.
I'm trying my hardest to claim the Vic. I really am. But even where Emma lives, there are still 2 or 3 pubs between her
in the way
and the Vic for me to truly be able to claim the Vic as my local pub.
I know what you're saying, because I lived 4 doors down from a pub when I used to live in Colchester. It wasn't the Vic.
Yeah.
It was a Green King pub.
Yeah.
And one more question, I think, tonight. So, sounds lovely. Was attempting to get a good West Coast IPA myself at the bottle shop earlier. Got the bitterness, but still hazy. Problem is, half the time these days, it's not clear what type of IPA it is. Should we ban hazy IPA? And that's from Ian Hay at II Hay.
I don't think it's a case of banning hazy IPA. I just think it's a case of better labelling. So if it's a West Coast IPA and it states it's a West Coast IPA, I expect it to be clear. I expect it to be crystal clear.
I expect it to be crystal clear, piney resinous, maybe a bit of dank, bitter. I think we spoke before about it's a bit of a shame it's had the words West Coast added to it.
Yeah,
but it serves a purpose.
It does. I mean, I had one at the weekend that claimed to be a West Coast IPA, and it poured murky.
Well, it's not West Coast,
so straight away I was like, from an Untapped point of view, I was like, well, you've lost points because you're not on style. You've not even met the style guidelines.
You've missed the starting point.
Yeah, for me. I don't think it's a case of banning hazy IPA, because let's be honest, a lot of the Colonel beers are hazy.
Yep.
And their IPAs are still great.
Yes.
And they're very West Coast leaning. I just think it's better labelling and better descriptors.
Especially, given that we always want stuff to either be in canned or brown or dark bottles, so we can't really see what's inside a lot of the time either.
You don't know until you get it in the glass.
Colonel, long established, we know what we're going to get. But for the other ones, just make it a bit clearer.
Yeah.
And then stick with it.
Yeah. And if you haven't brewed a West Coast IPA, don't advertise it as such, please. Really don't, because I don't want to be spending 4 or 5 quid of my money on a beer that isn't a West Coast IPA that I'm not going to enjoy.
Because there's a good chance I won't get back to you either.
Yeah. It's going to make me think twice next time.
But yeah, keep the questions coming. We have got a few lined up for other shows, but we always like seeing these questions.
We're trying to get to them eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you to everyone for the questions. So, we are pretty much at the end of the show. We're pretty much at the end of our glass in terms of the Camden Beer 2019.
Obviously, working at home today has built up a thirst for me.
Clearly.
Because I've been ahead in each beer.
How, in that case, why I try and catch up, how do you think that's changed in the last 3 months?
I think I go back to my initial thoughts. I think the winey, like the grape, the fresh white grapeness of it, that's tailed off. The oak tannins are more prevalent. I think you have got a bit of that wood, funky, almost a smoky note to it that's coming through, I think, from the wood as well. But what it has maintained is a drinkability about it. For 11% Brut Imperial Pilsner, which all sounds all kinds of wrong, really. It's really easy to drink. I mean, plenty of people out there are not lovers of Camden these days because of who they're owned by and stuff. But the fact is they are still producing this kind of beer as a seasonal release. And I actually think it's fantastic. And the fact that you can one of the last few beers you could probably ever buy from Waitrose before it gets banned. It's again just fantastic. I mean, an Imperial Pilsner at 11%, which is available in the supermarket.
Yeah, I mean, I am largely in agreement with everything you said there. I'm not getting the smokiness. I think for me, in the last 3 months, it's lost a little bit of the crispness that it had.
So like the Pilsner sharpness?
Yeah, but what's replaced that is kind of a sweetness that also almost is leaning it towards. It's almost becoming like a bit of a Belgian triple in terms of the body and the sweetness that's going on in there.
I can see where you're going with that.
And I'm so glad Rob suggested this to us at the same time that
Waitrose
reduced the price, because it's an interesting experiment that we're going to be able to do over the next year in terms of constantly going back to this beer and trying it time and time again.
I mean, I think it's just worth, because everyone listening now may not have listened to that show. So glass of fizz, how about a lager? Gold, bubbly, perfect for any celebration. Our Imperial Pilsner will put you in mind of the fancy French stuff, with biscuity malt and fruity grape aroma from Hallertau Blanc and Enigma hops. It's aged for 8 months in the classic champagne combo of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay barrels. Brut dry and much too tasty to smash on the hull of a ship or spray on a racing car. They've pitched it to be a replacement for you. I mean, you could potentially serve this as like a reception drink or something. And then it'd be amazing to hear what people would think about it if they didn't see it as a beer bottle to start off with, without the word beer, and see where they went with it.
Well, I'm intrigued to know if any of our listeners have still got any of this, have tried any of this since we last tried it, what their thoughts are on it as well. Yeah,
and if you can still get hold of it, I don't know whether Waitrose do anymore.
No, they're done now.
Yeah, but if anyone's got any stored away and want to join us on the journey, probably another 3 months before we have the next one.
Yes, so I think we're going to do June, September, and then we're actually going to do one again on the end of year show.
Yeah, because we always need another 11% beer on the end of the year show, don't we?
Well, you know what I'm like.
Yeah.
When it comes to that show, I just keep adding the beers.
Yeah, it's March and Steve's already planning it.
As always, use the hashtag opinions, get involved in everything that we're doing, whether it be comments on the show, questions, any of the questions or polls that we run. We love your involvement. Just a short reminder that we are still running a competition from the last show in terms of chance of winning Nat's book.
Started reading that. Really good. Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's an easy read. I think anyone who enjoyed listening to Nat speak, either on our podcast or on our own, will hear her in the book as well.
Yeah. We've had a lot of entries so far, so you've got until the 29th of March to get your entry in, because we'll be making the draw on the 30th. You're going to have to go back and listen to the last show though, because we're not going to tell you on this show what the question is or what the answer is. So if you want to be in with a chance, listen to the show, send us the answer via DM, and you'll go into the draw. And that just about brings us to the end of the show.
It does.
What have we got coming up next time?
We've got our Bod Bar trip, Steve.
We have, which we had a lot of fun recording the content out there.
Yep.
We had a lot of fun drinking the beers while we were out there.
That was a lot of fun.
And we had a lot of fun talking about it when we came back as well.
Yeah, maybe smile. Smile remembering our little trip to Czechia.
Yeah. And you'll get to hear all of that next time.
Yeah.
But until then, cheers.
She fancy a drink, just the one to clear your head. We won't be long, it's a beautiful day to waste away. There's plenty of time for another one. You know you shouldn't do it. Can see no reason why she blow your mind. Yeah, McMahon is short from getting there, but where there is, I couldn't care. Must be something I haven't tried. Perhaps that bottle before my